All right, hello everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 17 of Facing the Crowd. We are going to continue to discuss Andor season 2. For this week, we have episodes 7 through 9. And I think that at least episodes 8 and 9 are my two favorite of the season thus far, for sure. These episodes were so good that even Critical Drinker mentioned that he actually liked them and thought they were good, which is pretty surprising to see that.
They were pretty good episodes. Definitely my favorite set of the series so far.
Yes.
Or this season so far.
The season. Yeah, I still like the prison arc in season 1's. It's still peak.
Yeah.
This stuff's pretty good, and it does make me excited for what the last triple episode's going to be. But I'm also kind of curious to see like what actually happens in the year time jump that they put for these next three, where we actually end up.
I feel like I heard that the show was going to go basically to right before Rogue One.
Interesting.
Which could or could not be the case. I could be wrong. But if that is the case,
that
I
makes
really
sense.
wonder what they'll do with Luthen.
Well, he's probably going to die.
Well, yeah, but is he gonna die like immediately before Rogue One? Because like he could, but that seems odd to me.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Although I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm excited though because if these last two episodes were good, then I have hope that there's gonna be some good build up for the next three to end it out season wise. But at the same time, like if it is just leading up till Rogue One is kind of that like major moment for the rebellion. So I don't know what else they're actually really going to do, but I hope that there'll be something interesting.
I would expect, though. I mean, the build-up's been pretty consistent thus far. I'd be surprised if they just let it all down at the end.
Right. Yeah, I think it'll be good. Anyway, so we want to try to do this episode where we just kind of go through each of the episodes and talk about things that we liked or disliked or other just ideas or whatever. So we'll start with episode 8 or 7, which is definitely the weakest of the arc. Is this at the start? This is not the start, is it? Not
this
quite.
is towards the start of the episode.
Towards the start. Yeah. Oh yeah, I could intros. Yeah.
Yeah, it generally begins with just like Yavin.
It is just build up, just kind of setting the scene environment for Yavin, which
right.
Fine. Whatever. It's Andor. They're gonna take their time to do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like you can really criticize this episode for being slow, especially given the way they release it, or you can't really criticize it for being uneventful, because even though it's one episode, at the same time as you got this, you got two absolutely phenomenal episodes, and you kind of just need this one to build up to the other two, so it's more like the first hour of a movie that builds up rather than like its own episode.
I'd expect to see something similar for the next trio of episodes as well, which I don't really have an issue with if the payoff is worth it.
Right, definitely.
And it does give time for like some maybe smaller character moments here and there in between while it sets the stage.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. What's this guy's name? I can't remember his name.
I don't remember this guy's name.
I'm gonna figure it out. And Andor with his name is apparently Willman.
Really?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Well, yeah, we'll go with that. That doesn't seem right. I don't know if have they even said his name in the show. I don't know. Personally, for him, like my issue with him is that like I never expected him to be as major of a character as he is, especially this season. He was very, very minor in season 1. I didn't even remember him from season 1 when I started watching season 2. And now, I mean, they gave him like his little tiny arc with Saw Gerrera, which felt like it just didn't make much
It
sense.
kind
And
of
then now
went nowhere.
it kind of didn't. No, like all that seemed to really happen is that now he's seems to be much more like inspired,
I'll be
or
honest.
passionate about the rebellion.
I thought after that one scene with him doing like the mining thing, he was gonna join Saw Gerrera's rebels and then like die or something, and Bix was gonna be sad. But that doesn't seem to have happened.
Now he's just back with the main group of rebels, which is interesting.
Yeah,
because like it's clear in Rogue One that like Saw is not exactly in league with these rebels, because of his extremist ideology.
He's kind of the separatist of the group.
Sure. So yeah,
I mean that not in the Star Wars separatists. I mean it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so it's a little bit strange that he is here, and he does seem to be working for Luthen as well. I think he mentioned that, or at least praised Luthen for getting things done. I think is kind of what he did. It's been a few days since I watched these, and this is the weakest of the episodes, so I don't remember for certain what it is. Yeah.
This. I mean, it's a setup episode. What else do you have after this? You have
not a ton. You have the setup from the perspective of Dedra and Cyril.
Yeah.
Then you have some of the setup for the Mon Mothma stuff as well.
Right. There's a lot. Okay, this scene I did find interesting here. With the Gorman rebels basically realizing just how much they've messed up and just how much the Emperor was playing them the whole time, and now being like, do we even keep trying or what?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And obviously it explodes into something even worse in the next episode. But yeah. And obviously like they set this up just from the very get-go. They're the group of rebels that the Empire can depend on to do the wrong thing, which just basically just fuels the Empire's propaganda around the issue.
Right. It's pretty clear in the next two episodes.
It's actually kind of like
the next episode that the Empire wanted them to do the whole Gorman Plaza protest thing, and then to turn it into like some violent uprising.
Right.
So they could be like, Gorman bad, now we're gonna mine it to death.
Right, and obviously that's the attempt. It actually kind of like gives like a very competent perspective towards the Empire to see how like easily they manipulated this from the background, like where it basically was effortless against this massive regime full of this idea of order, but at the same time they're able to like plant all these seeds to be able to actually get what they want, and it makes it quite terrifying how successful they are.
Right.
And obviously that's another thing like why I like when the Empire is shown as a legitimate threat in Star Wars, and it's been fairly inconsistent. Like even just like in the original trilogy, the Empire in Empire Strikes Back is a lot more threatening and menacing than it is in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
where they get beaten by a bunch of teddy bears.
That's true. I too like when we see the Empire as like a legitimate threat. It makes the whole thing more believable.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can get away with your underdog stories now and again. The underdog stories are fun and everyone likes them. But when you do it again and again and again and again, it just gets kind of unbelievable to the point that you don't actually care.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, even like I feel like to a certain extent the sequels are kind of guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean the sequels are also guilty of kind of just plagiarizing the original trilogy, so
or destroying it.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the sequel trilogy. Why'd I bring that up?
Let's not talk about those. Nobody. Those don't exist.
Those don't exist. That's right. They're just a figment of our imaginations. Just some weird fanfic someone made.
Yeah, it's the airplane chemtrails or something.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, we had Gorman. This Gorman scene that was interesting. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, they
this
had
would be
the force
interesting.
healer stuff, which was very, it was kind of interesting because like, I mean, this is like basically like the closest thing to like the like whole force, the Jedi and the Sith that we've seen in the Andor show, which I think actually adds a lot to it in a way. It shows that like, because like obviously like the rebels in the original trilogy are not completely detached from this idea of the force. They have
Right.
obviously have like Obi-Wan Kenobi is a pretty significant ally to Princess Leia,
Mhm.
and so like that sort of like may the force be with you is pretty important to the rebellion. So I actually liked how they kind of showcased that maybe in a different way on Yavin.
I think it's interesting as kind of like a world building piece, like just
Yeah,
seeing how force sensitive people are kind of still playing a role in the galaxy and in the rebellion. In terms of Andor's actual character arc, I was a little bit ambivalent about this scene because it feels kind of thrown in there, and it's like
right.
it was never entirely clear to me what the point of like the whole revelation of it was.
Right, right. It was a little bit strange, and like it's somewhat like, and to a certain extent, I kind of get it because like if you aren't someone who can tap into the Force like a Jedi, you might be more unaware of it. It's more mysterious, and that could be frightening to some people or a lot of
Sure.
people, like within world. But like yeah, I do kind of agree what you're saying. It does feel a little bit out of place. It doesn't really seem to lead much of anywhere for Cassian's character. I mean, in theory, it has something to do with Bix eventually leaving, but like I'm not exactly sure what that would be. It almost seems like this scene maybe suggests that Bix would not leave, but yeah, I don't
I
know.
guess maybe what they're trying to say is that Andor's place is with the rebellion now, so he needs to stop running off on like these crazy Luthen missions after this one and just kind of
Hmm.
be incorporated into the structure
Right.
of it all. And so for that reason, Bix has to leave so that he'll stay with the rebellion, I guess.
Yeah. He's just running away from his place as like a leader or like his
Yeah,
destiny to be a leader of the rebellion, I guess.
I guess that could be
Because
it.
I mean, he is because like I mean, the entire show he's basically this lone ranger. Yeah, he has his group of people, but like as far as the scope of the rebellion, he is a lone ranger, and that's I
Right.
mean, kind of like what Luthen has been doing is just sending people off in very very small groups or completely alone to do the dirty work, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, like it serves to help kind of. I feel like it gives a little bit of that original trilogy feeling maybe into the
That's
show.
true.
Obviously, like one of the main criticisms of the show from Star Wars fans is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. I felt like this actually made it feel a little bit more like Star Wars, even if it's just for like a couple scenes,
Yeah, I think you're right.
maybe.
I think you could say that this episode does kind of hang over like the rest of this 3 episode set. So even if
Hmm.
it's a short sequence, it does seem to have kind of a lasting influence on this particular arc.
Hmm.
So yeah, you're right. This was a good scene. I was a little more hesitant about it when I watched it, but I do think it
Hmm.
is a good scene.
Yeah, cool. I think that's fair. What else? What happens next? It's just yeah,
Uh,
we have more
Gorman
Empire
stuff.
stuff, more Gorman.
Oh, you had kind of this
The setup
scene
with
with
or
General
you go.
Graven.
Yeah, that
General Graven scene was interesting.
was interesting. Yeah, I mean, like like in Rogue One, he's not exactly the most friendly character. I mean, he orders the assassination of Galen Erso, which of course
Yeah,
went completely against Jin's desires, as well. Like as it seemed very morally ambiguous, morally stupid in a way for him to make that call. Um, but at the same
it,
time, he does
I
seem to be
mean,
a respected leader within the rebellion, and maybe those more extreme calls are what gotten him to that place.
Yeah, that I expect he's the one who like has to make those calls a lot and is
Right.
the one who's willing to make them, which is probably why he's not portrayed as a likable character. He's a
Hmm.
little bit like Luthen on a smaller scale, where he's the one who has to do the morally gray or morally bad things, or he believes he has to do those things in order to advance the cause or something.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Not sure exactly what role, if any, he really has in the rest of the season.
We'll
Hard
see.
to
I would
say. Well, yeah,
expect him
we'll
to
see.
make an appearance in the final.
There's so much different characters that like a lot of them are gonna have to either just die or just like completely be pulled out of the picture one way or another in the
Yeah,
next 3 episodes. What's that actually gonna look like? I don't know.
I mean, Bix they've arguably dealt with at this point, but
Right.
that still leaves Dedra
Like
for
that's
sure.
right. And Cyril got killed already.
Yeah.
Um, who else has got? I don't know. I think they're reducing it. I mean, Luthen and Clea. What is it?
Clea, yeah.
Clea.
Her.
Their fate is I'm kind of curious about because they seem to be pretty important behind the scenes figures, but they aren't mentioned at all in Rogue One. I mean, like obviously this was made after, so did they have the plan all that planned out? But
Mhm.
I'm curious to see where that goes because they are. I mean, they're on Coruscant still, so that's like the one of the most dangerous places for them to be, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they're discovered, it's going to be very difficult to get off world. um,
I, it feels like they
well,
can't have that much longer left on Coruscant because we're already
yeah, I
seeing
know.
like the Empire cracking down on the Senate. Mothma had to flee.
Right. I'd assume that we'd see. I mean, it's possible Bail Organa will already be on Yavin by the next
Mhm.
year gap. I think that's pretty likely, actually,
Yeah.
because he's obviously on the chopping block of the Empire.
Mhm.
I don't know because there was like clips in the trailer showing Dedra in Luthen's art gallery, so I'm assuming that he stays there for a little bit. And I kind of hate like, oh well, I get spoiled from the trailer a little bit, but curious to see how that confrontation goes down, especially because Dedra's shown a little bit of humanity in these episodes,
Arguably, yeah.
arguably.
You're right. She has. She has.
Yeah, this was
And
kind of
from here,
interesting. The whole Empire squadron coming in basically to set up the massacre, and I thought that it was
yeah.
interesting that they specifically brought attention to the fact that the soldiers are much younger, which I thought was interesting.
Well, I think it was intentional that they brought in
Yeah,
like young soldiers because they wanted them to get beat up by the
right.
crowd.
Hmm. Or the ones who might be more impulsive and escalate
Right.
it faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which ended up working.
which yeah, of course. What else we got here?
From there we get to like Andor arrives on the planet to kill
Oh yes, on
Dedra.
Gorman, right?
Um, I don't think there's that much else. Just him in his hotel, like
In his hotel, yeah,
waiting.
scoping things out.
Yeah, trying to see when and where he'll get the shot on her.
Hmm. Right.
I, I think that's about all for
That
episode
is, yeah.
7.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Like,
amount of time for that episode.
yeah,
Episode 8. Oh man, this
that was
is
definitely like the least
all right. So
Struggles with
important of
Gorman
the
are well
3.
documented at this point.
How did this start?
I don't know. Yeah, just pause it for now. I
Basically,
mean,
we're
this
on
episode is
Gorman from the
pretty
start.
much Gorman.
Yeah, we're going to rebel
Maybe a
on
couple jumps
Gorman.
away, but primarily from here, because of course it's the centerpiece of of what happens. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
just like how like the next episode is primarily focused around Mothma. But yeah, yeah, this episode's kind of kind of intense in a really, really good artistic way, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Watch it
I
crash to
mean,
the ground. Obviously,
we
you have
we saw like
basically
Cyril's collapse too in this
you saw
episode,
his
which was really
collapse.
good.
His world's caves in around him, and then
Mhm.
obviously he starts to question the Empire a little bit, question Dedra. He starts to feel just like a pawn in their particular game, that he's
Yeah,
being lied to. Which, I mean, I feel like we maybe kind of expected something like that for him to break a little bit free from the Empire, but um, I
I
wasn't
wondered if he
expecting
wouldn't
what
have
happened
like a
next to happen.
redemption arc though.
What?
I almost expected a redemption arc, honestly.
Yeah. To me, I actually thought that we'd see that in this episode, but instead we get
Mhm.
a
Instead, like
much greater tragedy, I guess.
after like the whole loyalty to the Empire thing is
Mhm.
stripped away, he's kind of just reduced to his desire to get revenge on Andor.
Revenge, and it's almost like even like it's just like he is so captured by the ideology of the Empire that yeah, once he's freed from that, all he's left with, where he's basically questioning things. And my guess is like if he never saw Andor there, he actually may have had more of a redemption arc, or
Mhm.
just gotten like killed in the crossfire. But then Andor kind of ignited that last sense of the ideology that he's been consumed with throughout the show.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I can't believe this season actually made me like him as a character. I think he's interesting. I thought he was such like an uninteresting character in season 1, but wow, they really changed my mind on him in season 2.
Yeah, I agree. I guess though, if I had to have one criticism of this episode, it would be that Andor survives just by like chance again, which gets annoying after a while to me, but
Yeah,
that's
the
fairly
plot
minor.
armor. Um
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I mean like obviously Andor's probably one of the most skilled gunmen, like skilled in that type of situation as people, but yeah, I think it that like sure, like if you want to have the plot armor criticism, you certainly can.
Yeah. And like that's a minor criticism. I thought
Right.
the completely like uneventful prosaic way he died was actually kind of fitting to show
It
like
really was. Yeah, I
really
really
how
liked how they handled it.
insignificant he ultimately is in all this.
And of course, the episode name and what Cassian says is, I think, meant to add even more to that.
Yeah, probably.
All right. What else? So, all right. Obviously, it escalates. Um, and like it's kind of interesting to see like some people like in the actual like rebel sect on Gorman, they actually realize that this is completely a trap, and they're wondering what the heck to do,
Hmm.
and it just completely caves in on them.
Yeah, I mean I
Yeah,
think for like the leaders of the rebellion, this is kind of just like the desperation move. Like we know it's a
right,
trap. We know we're gonna get slaughtered, but at this point we don't even care because the Empire is gonna just do whatever they want to us.
right. Yeah, the that last act of desperate, and like this, like the sad thing is that like most of these people are completely oblivious to that fact, and like even in the
Right.
moment when the rebel sect tries to reason with people, it just seems to be drowned out. They're insignificant in the scope of the full crowd here that has gathered in the plaza.
Hmm.
Uh,
Exactly.
mhm. Which of course just makes it a little bit more terrifying to think about that even the voices who the people who know who actually do know better, they have more experience, more knowledge when it comes to this stuff,
Right.
are the ones who are still completely are still a minority. Their voices are still stuck in the crowd.
And ironically, in the long run, though, Luthen was probably actually right, and this whole massacre,
Right.
honestly, probably was more in favor of the rebellion than anything else.
That's that is actually a good point. I never really thought about that till now because that is interesting how that sort of just gives kind of context to even like what Luthen did at the end of season 1, where when
Mhm.
Lonnie tells him the information, he's just like, okay, thanks. We still unfortunately have to let them die in order to solidify your position as a spy in the Empire,
Right.
which, I mean, that's just very consistent for Luthen's character to do that.
I mean,
Right.
Luthen was arguably a bit more proactive in causing this one to go down because he was basically like encouraging this whole rebellion through Val, even
Right.
after Andor was like, "There's no way this works."
Right, right. And I think that obviously that is what makes Luthen as a character so interesting, is his willingness to do the bad thing for the right purpose, or the right overall
Exactly.
purpose. Um, which I think that's what makes Luthen so powerful and so dangerous to the Empire, is that aspect that he is willing to sacrifice so much just for the chance of getting a significant event to lead to more passion and more influence for the rebellion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it does seem like he's even beginning to go like a little bit crazy from it. We've seen him get like
Right.
increasingly paranoid throughout this season of Andor.
Hmm.
So like I'm sure this is all getting
Right.
to him too.
Like, and that even goes back to his monologue where he's just like, I yearn to be like a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time he looks down, there's nothing left beneath his feet, or goes something like that. I've like memorized most of his monologue, but I
It's
can't.
a good
I don't
model.
know the exact words. And like you can definitely start to see the paranoia. Yeah, for sure. He and I felt like he was actually he was sidelined for a lot of this season in favor of Cleo, which I was a little bit annoyed at. But he seems to be still the figure in the background making the hard calls.
Yeah, for sure. What else did we see?
Yeah, what else?
I mean, this was ultimately like a lot of Gorman stuff,
Right, right. Just
which
like the
was
tension is
interesting.
building in this particular stuff. Then of course, yeah,
I
this
guess we
interaction
had
here where like Cyril has like a full blown crash out.
Cyril. Yeah, this scene with Cyril and Dedra was pretty big.
Right. Yeah, basically, yeah, like Cyril just all of a sudden recognizes that he is basically just being used for purposes that he would not necessarily wish to align himself with.
Right.
Um, used just as a pawn under the guise, and basically just he recognized that Dedra was mostly just manipulating him into being a useful idiot, I guess you could say, for their purposes in Gorman.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And he's not happy about that, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have this whole scene, and then he basically just runs off to join the crowd here.
Hmm. And yeah, they start chanting some anthem, which
Yeah, singing
definitely I think
like their
scares like it probably like starts scaring like Dedra, even like, wow, this is a massive united crowd.
Mhm.
This could get much more messier than we were anticipating. And
Yeah,
obviously
I
like
mean, last time there was a massive united crowd, Dedra almost died. So
right. Right, and that's what that's in a way that's what she fears the most, is for her plans to just become pure chaos with her caught in the crossfire.
yep.
And of course, like the whole time she's kind of focused on the crowd, she's completely oblivious to Andor, who is prepared to just shoot her from just kind of from the outside. They're like, which I think, yeah, you can definitely tell that that Dedra is not doesn't necessarily like what's going on here, and obviously we do see that her begin to at least show a little bit of humanity
Mhm.
as the massacre takes place. I don't know, because like, I mean, you can definitely like, she's definitely thinking about the Ferric situation that she had to endure, and what if this is something similar? What if this is the end for her?
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
if, and although she has like her orders from the Empire about what has to do, and she's been generally compliant with that. So like basically like everything that she believes about the Empire is under attack here. So she's definitely nervous, which I don't know, Dedra's such an interesting character in some ways.
Yeah, she is.
I really like I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I like Master Samwise's video on Dedra, how she is more or less a normal individual who works for a group of people who obviously the audience know to be generally evil, but they're just trying to do their job to the best of their ability, and that could oftentimes drive them to become a monster that they wish they had never become.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of the general gist of Master Samwise's video.
I don't know that I've seen that one yet. I'll have to go watch it at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He basically has like a video on like every Andor character, which I like.
I mean,
And
that's
Master
a
Samwise
credit
makes
to
really
the
good
show.
videos.
Like
Right.
it does character development very well. That's the strength, clear strength of this show.
Yeah, the video title is called "When the Villain is Just a Normal Person." It's actually his third most recent video, which is kind of interesting here.
Oh, interesting. I will say though, when Cyril like tackled Andor, it looked to me like Andor had gotten the shot off before he got tackled.
Maybe, I don't know.
Like,
let me go back to your screen.
If he did, it was a poor shot because we never got a scene even of like Dedra having a blaster bolt going right next to her head or something. But
right,
I don't know. Just saying.
True. Yeah, and then obviously that's gosh, it's so tragic for Cyril, who might finally have a chance at redemption to break free from the ideology that has guided him, and then the one person that essentially started his obsession with the Empire it brings him basically back into it full swing.
Mm-hmm.
He gets completely consumed by it once again at the moment when he was closest to being free of it.
Yeah.
And of course, that just makes it like you feel bad for him. You feel bad for his end, which is not something I would have expected from season one.
Yeah,
to care much about.
He honestly had the perfect conclusion to his arc. I think it couldn't have been better.
Yeah, like you mentioned, his purpose of showing how insignificant he really is, I think, is what makes him a compelling character. He's in over his head in a lot of ways, and he seems to be on track to getting what he wants. But then the moment that he tries to get what he wants, it all just crumbles inside. He realizes he's so insignificant, and then he gives one last final stand when wanting to fight Andor to regain that that passion that he had, I guess.
Yeah.
Try to make a name for himself, and is like a last ditch effort for that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
He seems like a fairly innocent character too, like throughout the show. Like he's clearly passionate about like order and justice and such, and he just wants to get ahead in the world, kind of. Yet he's so deceived by the Empire and just buys everything that he's fed that he kind of has nothing left when all of that comes crashing down around him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, very impressive conclusion to.
Yes, for sure. And I hope that other characters have as impressive of conclusions. That the conclusions that are the definition of the character themselves are the ones that are the most satisfying.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. Anyways, what else happens in this episode beyond
after this? Basically, they just escape. That you have like the K2 droid.
Oh yes, and then you have the K2. Yeah, and then you have Dedra, who. Where are we at? Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about this scene.
Yeah,
This is a really good scene.
it's a really good scene. To showcase that like even like Dedra has like fighting probably every ounce, with everything she has to prevent herself from seeing her as the villain. But like even like this, like it took this extent to get someone like her to start questioning that.
Hmm.
But like she's still trying to hold on, and this I think leaves it a little bit open to what her end might actually be. But I very much doubt that she will have a redemption arc or like a full
That
revenge.
would, yeah,
I think that like if she just like betrays the Empire, joins the rebellion, I think that might actually lose the purpose of her character in the show.
that
Even
feels
if it
a little wrong to me.
might be, even if it might feel good, to see that happen, I think that within this specific show, I think that would ruin her character. But
I agree.
I even like showing like the choking on the uniform, I think just shows the pressure is suddenly coming to her. Both of course the pressure of like what happens if this fails, what is the aftermath of this, but also the pressure of like an individual level self-perception in a way.
Yeah. I honestly forgot this scene was in this episode, but this scene was just phenomenal. Like the
Right.
first, I guess this isn't the first really human view of Dedra we've seen. We kind of saw that as well in the whole episode on Barracks, but this was like a lot
Right.
more intense than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
really
definitely.
impressive acting here too.
Hmm. Yeah. Obviously, like I think just the fact that she's in her private room, whatever, where she communicates to like the other ISB guy and
Hmm.
for what to do, and like it's just the isolated space, the like the silence around her, basically just singling her out for a powerful character moment.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
really really nice. And what else happened? Like, it's the only thing after this just showing Cyril's mom,
Yeah, I think that's
basically.
finally it. Cyril's mom
Yeah,
is sad.
which I think that adds to the it kind of it adds to Cyril's character in some way, because like in the grand scheme of things he is just an insignificant face, but like there's still like an impact that he has,
Sure.
um even if it's just to his family. But like obviously like within the scope of the entire show, the point is to show how insignificant he is, and it's probably just to make you pity him, feel bad for him, but at the same time to showcase the true extent, the power of the empire surrounding him.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you're right. It is a good scene.
Yeah.
Do we want to move
That's
on
it for this
to?
episode. Let's move on
Yes.
to episode, what is 9? Episode 9. I just completely just blocked it. All right. So obviously this episode basically just is basically everything directly following the Gorman massacre, specifically following Mothma, and trying to basically just, it's basically the entire episode is just to get Mothma off of Coruscant and to Yavin, for her to finally truly join the rebellion.
Hmm.
Um, and this episode is great as well.
Yeah,
Very,
this
very
is
good.
a phenomenal episode.
So obviously it starts. How does this start?
Starts
Where we
with
at?
Mothma. Well, it
Well, that's
starts
right.
with
It starts
the
with the
Gorman guy
Gorman
getting
senator
arrested.
getting arrested, which, of course, just showcases that in Coruscant they actually have no idea what's happening because of the Imperial propaganda
Yeah.
spinning it. Um, yeah, placing the blame on the senator, which probably just means that they see him as a threat to the Empire as a whole. Which, I mean, obviously he would be. He's an advocate for his people.
Right.
So, but it's possible that there's other reasons why they would want him gone, and they orchestrated this whole thing for that. Though I think that the true intention with Gorman is just well beyond the political one.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this
then
is a really Mothma-centered episode
it is.
overall, though, and
Mhm.
we've really liked the Mothma arc thus far, and this was
Yes.
not an exception to that. Then we have her like deciding to give the speech, kind of where she's
working with Bill Organa to find a way to basically actually get your voice out there using, I guess we do want like law manipulation or possibly just a legitimate law, whatever it was, some like emergency law type thing.
Yeah,
which of course like that works. Yeah, sure.
Loopholes in the Senate proceeding laws or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, and Bill again is such like he's an interesting character as well. He's a much more prominent figure in all of Star Wars beyond Mothma, at least before this show.
Yeah.
Obviously, he of course is father to Leia, which is in the grand scheme of Star Wars, I think makes him a little bit more important. But I think for the sake of like the true rebellion causes, Mothma is much more significant.
Yeah, I would agree, but he's an important character.
They're both important.
Nice to see him make an appearance in this show,
especially because Bail Organa was basically against the Empire from. I mean, Mothma probably was as well, but from the start, like he helped rescue Yoda off of Coruscant.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, yeah, he's definitely a Jedi loyalist, you could say, or. Saw Yoda, the remaining Jedi, as the figure of an ideal that was the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, it also shows that he wasn't going to fall
for this show, which is kind of hasn't been a big deal, which is good.
For me, it hasn't been a big deal, though. I mean, the reason for the recast is just they couldn't get it work with the original actor whose name I should know but forget. What is his name?
I don't know.
Jimmy Smits. That is the original Bail Organa, who did a really good job. But this guy, Benjamin Bratt, is this guy's name. He, I think, has done a pretty good job honoring the character, playing it well. Even if it's just a different face, that's fine. Yeah, like it hasn't bothered me too much for the sake of the story. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I really have to say regarding the recast.
Oh, you did have this kind of interesting scene where you had like Clea basically making Andor like do another mission.
Right.
That was an interesting dynamic, I thought.
Yeah, certainly, because obviously, I mean, Andor's like literally just came from the literal Gorman massacre, and now he's being told, yeah, no, you're going to have to smuggle a politician out of one of probably the highest guarded places on Coruscant. So yeah, good luck.
Yep, exactly.
Although that's like, it did feel almost too easy getting her out. But
yeah,
but I guess like maybe that's just to show that like maybe just like violence just isn't tolerated on Coruscant. Like even if it is the Empire, they still generally hold to a societal ideal, such as just avoiding violence in like the political sphere.
At least on like the upper levels of Coruscant.
Yeah. That is kind of an interesting thing about Coruscant. The lower levels of Coruscant is kind of interesting. I know.
It would have been interesting to see a little bit more of that in this show, arguably, since Andor tends to show like the grittier areas. But
like, what have we had from that? Like there was the one arc in Clone Wars season 7, which is probably like the worst arc of Clone Wars season 7. Other times they're in the lower levels.
Are they
I don't
briefly
know.
in the Attack of the Clones movie towards the beginning?
Yeah,
You
I
have the
guess that's
Coruscant
true. Yeah, where
cave. You kind
they
of see a
bring
little of
down
that.
Zam Wessel's
Yeah,
craft and then enter that bar. Definitely seems like a lower level thing compared to the spectacle that is the upper levels of Coruscant. So
yep,
I guess yeah, it's definitely showcased it. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot you could do in Star Wars with that sort of dynamic.
I
Because like
agree.
obviously like at least with like I feel like you could do interesting stuff with the Jedi where they live in their perfect temple. Yet that if they go down a few levels, they're not exactly keeping the peace very well.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean,
It would
like I
be an
mean, the
interesting thing
entirety
to
of like the
explore.
prequel trilogy showcases how like unhelpful the council is in a lot of situations.
Yep.
But that's this is Andor, not the Jedi. Anyways, yeah, this scene, um, it's an interesting scene. Yeah.
It is. And then from there, you kind of just go into the
So
Mothma arc.
then
We have
this is,
Luthen warning
mhm.
her she has to leave.
And it's interesting to show that Mothma definitely has grown colder with Luthen.
Hmm.
Um, she doesn't like him in a lot of ways, and I mean that kind of seems to happen with everybody who works for Luthen as they start to like him less and less.
Yeah,
Even if like they
that's
have to say,
another
even
part
if he's
he's.
doing what one could argue must be done.
Mhm. They did
But
bring up Take Homa again here too, which was
mhm.
interesting.
I mean, yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember them bringing it up in here, but
I think
just like
Mothma
Mothma just
mentioned
basically
it.
accuse
She's like,
him of.
well, she knows that he had him killed. Like
Oh yeah.
that was no
Oh, yeah,
secret to her.
okay,
But
yeah,
she's
yeah.
still
I
like
remember. I
mad
remember that
about
this
it.
dialogue.
He was Take Homa was like her friend, and now she's like,
Mhm.
that wasn't right of you to kill him. You should have seen what he
Yeah,
had to say.
yeah. That definitely seems to be the source of the disconnect between these two.
Hmm.
But like, of course, at the end of the day, she still ends up following Luthen's plan and instruction,
Yeah.
which I mean, like, probably the most tense moment of her life. Of course, she's
Yeah,
going to.
probably so
She
far.
kind of has the realization that, gosh dang it, Luthen, I would prefer to do it your way this time. Even if I wish it would have to be, there could be another way, but
Yep.
yeah. Um, you have like the you showcase like the Empire room where like they control
Oh,
like
that's right.
the
Empire
feed.
listening room.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting to show kind of like some of the inner workings of the Empire. Like they are listening in on, and they have been marking the senators that they seem to be a threat. And probably like rightfully so, like they are a threat.
Right.
Which of course like at the same time that does show that like the Empire is very much afraid of criticism, critique, people's voices getting heard, because that obviously sparks rebellion, sparks distrust in the Empire, which they can't have. And I kind of like to see this particular setup to see kind of how they're accomplishing that mission. Or like it even just also shows like that they clearly have control over like the feed, at least to a certain extent, to show the public what they want them to see, just to like send their propaganda through it, which
Right.
of course is something that the Empire would obviously do. Although I don't know if we've really seen them do it too much before. I could be wrong though.
I don't know if we've seen them do that specifically, but
Yeah.
Andor as a show has been very good at showing kind of the inglorious underworld,
Hmm.
not underworld, but like the less exciting parts of the working of the Empire, the
Right.
ordinary people working for the Empire
Hmm.
who aren't particularly despicable. They're just doing their
Right.
job and
Mhm.
perpetuating the evil of it in that way.
Right. But like at the same time, it showcases like this room has that sort of simplified environment that has defined the Empire within Star Wars, which showcases that, which just shows that like this certainly is a threat, even if not everybody in this room necessarily is as despicable as like the worst of the worst.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, we can continue. Talking. Oh, is this her rehearsing the speech? No, not. Oh yeah,
no,
they have
this is her dismissing her assistant, who was like a Luthen plant.
Wasn't this guy like the like cousin or whatever she had, where he's just like, I don't really like him too much at the wedding? Is he that who he is? Like,
I don't remember.
Because I'm pretty sure that like that's probably where he got recruited by Luthen, is at the wedding.
You're probably right. I don't know,
but
unfortunately.
But like, yeah, this obviously showcases that like, yeah, she doesn't like Luthen at all, and it kind of adds a little bit of tension. Like, is she actually going to follow through with Luthen's plan, or is she going to just rebel against Luthen, which will put her in a pretty sticky situation? Obviously, we know she survives to get to Yavin, but like the actual how is, I think, a little bit up in the air at this point.
For sure.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, choosing to do that. And then obviously we
have like Andor getting into the place here, doing the journalist thing again.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's all just a bunch of setup.
I guess
putting the characters where they need to be.
Yeah, the first half of this is a lot of setup, and then you get to her actual speech.
Yep.
I had it just a second.
And I like how you can also see kind of the desperation within that listening room of the Empire, where like, oh shoot, wait, one of the senators we're watching is actually getting up to speak. We didn't think that would ever happen, so now we have to cut the feed. Oh wait, the feed's not cutting. What is going on? We have to, and it shows like how easily the Empire's perceived like order can just completely fall apart the moment like one person decides to be a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And then the second half of this episode is just like perfect. I love every minute of this. Because you have like Andor meeting Mothma here, and then you have them escaping. I don't know if we needed like this little subplot of the other people trying to backstab her or whatever, but it added to
the Bail Organa's crew that was going to escort her to Yavin. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It also it did. I don't know. I thought the little confrontation here was kind of interesting, where they called them falsely a rebel spy to justify shooting them, which basically just removed them from the equation. Which
it was interesting. Like, I did enjoy it.
Yeah, and I obviously that does kind of show like there is more moral ambiguity in the rebellion as well. It's not just like Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is probably like the ideal Jedi, or one of the most ideal Jedis in Star Wars canon.
Right.
But yeah, I thought, and obviously like it does show like, yeah, they are definitely Luthen's servants. Willing to do what's necessary. I thought this was shooting the driver was interesting as well.
The driver, that was. I mean, it felt a little unnecessary when he did it, but also I don't know what else he was going to do.
Right, and I mean they kind of set him up within the episode to like be someone who could be a threat to Mothma getting off. So like, in a way, like Andor is justified in what he does. But just like it's like the quick thinking that makes him such a useful rebel soldier, especially to someone like Luthen. He's like he could be like a one-man army in some situations.
This is also like the whole
he's able to
becoming real to Mon Mothma, I think.
True.
Because she sees this individual who she's known for a long time just dying in front of her while Andor shoots, which is something she'd been supporting by funneling money to the rebellion, but something
Right.
she was probably only like intellectually or vaguely aware of. It wasn't
Right.
truly
She just
real
like
to
yeah,
her
yeah.
until
It's just
this
like
point.
the sudden like realization, oh man, this is real. Um like this is actually what's happening. It's all not all sunshine and rainbows for the rebellion against the empire. Like they have to do difficult things as well.
Yeah,
Um which is interesting.
for
Yeah,
sure.
there's a discussion to be had. I'm curious to see what they do with Mothman's character for the next 3 episodes. If she very quickly like becomes a major figure within the rebellion, which I'm assuming she will.
To be honest, I would not be surprised if she faded into the background a little bit for the next 3 episodes and it just
Yeah,
became all
I
about
guess
Andor.
I guess that'd be kind of fair. Actually, let Andor be the main character of his show for once.
Yeah. Like, hopefully there will be some more Luthen. I'd like to see some more Luthen, but and some Dedra.
I do think that Luthen and Dedra are probably going to be kind of the center of the next three, just because at least I think both of us seem to agree that they're going to die or
Yeah,
something will
for
happen
sure.
to
I would
them.
expect
So
so.
yeah,
And Andor is like never actually the center of his own show
right.
either.
And obviously we know Andor survives, so like
Well,
it's
yeah,
not,
he has to.
and that ruins some tension. But like these other characters that were created just for the show, you can build a lot more tension around them because we don't know for sure what's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see for sure.
Then they get to, is that the Andor's apartment
Yeah, they
building?
go
Is
to
that where
like
this
the
is?
safe room
The
where
safe room, yeah.
Andor and Bix stayed for a while,
Right.
and Luthen and Clea are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought the really interesting part was when Andor gets back to Yavin.
Right. Yeah. It is kind of interesting what they actually had, because like I was not expecting Bix to just like leave. I mean, I thought she was gonna die personally.
I did
Clearly they
too.
didn't want to do that. I don't
What
know if they're just gonna like remove her from the rest of the show and just make that her
I
send
hope
off on
they
the
do.
show. I personally hope so as well. I mean, obviously,
In
like it's
my
clear that like
opinion, the worst thing they could do now is like have her like dramatically reappear at the end of the last episode and then like die in Andor's arms or something. Like that would be it
Mhm.
would be such a Disney thing to do, but also just so out of touch with like the tone of this show. I
Right,
really don't want to see that.
right, and I think that like I really kind of liked how they did it, and like the things she said. Like it's clear that like she's not just leaving Andor for her own reasons. She's doing it for him, for the
Right.
rebellion. And of
Exactly.
course, like she does like seem to hope that after this is over, that they'll be back together, which of course is somewhat tragic, knowing that Andor dies on Scarif, um, after acquiring the Death Star plans. Um,
Also, if she just leaves and never comes back, it kind of mirrors his separation from his sister, with which the
right.
whole show started, which I think would be kind of fitting and like
Sure.
it would make more sense, I feel, in the grand narrative of his life than if we have some dramatic reunification scene right at the end.
Hmm. I think that's fair. What else happened on Yavin?
That's really it.
That's
You
really
have
it.
K2SO at the very
Oh yeah,
end.
K2SO, which
But
I think that's good. I mean, he definitely seems to be important to Andor. He is his
yeah, for
robot
sure.
sidekick in Rogue One, so, and he will probably basically fill the void that he might be feeling. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
that's
interesting
partially
because
why
like he is
the scene.
simultaneously he's a representation of the Gorman massacre, being present there, now being reprogrammed, for the rebel cause. I don't. I think that'll be pretty significant to Andor.
Probably.
like that, as well as it. I mean, he definitely was a memorable part of Rogue One. So
Yeah, a lot of
yeah,
people really love
and I
K2SO.
know like my
So
brother especially has been waiting for K to actually come onto the scene, and we'll definitely see him probably quite a bit in the next 3 episodes.
I expect so. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I really can't overstate how well done I thought the whole Bix scene was.
yeah.
Honestly, like
Hmm.
I never saw that coming.
No, I
It
didn't.
was like perfect.
Yeah, it was definitely handled quite well. It exceeded my expectations for what they were gonna do with Bix, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I think that I said in our last episode that I kind of expected like my ultimate judgment of the show to kind of hinge on these episodes 7 through 9 because I don't expect them to mess up the finale. They could, but I don't think they will.
Yeah,
And
I expect these next 3 to be very strong. Um,
yeah. And if we're right about that, I think this has to be judged as probably the second or third best show Disney Star Wars has made, not counting Clone Wars Season 7.
what would you put above it?
Season 1 of Andor.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
You could
Does
argue
the sequel have the
Mandalorian Season
possibility?
1 is better. I don't think I would argue that.
So, are you basically saying that like you don't expect this show to be better than season one?
I don't think it will, but it could be. If they
Yeah,
absolutely nail the finale, it's possible.
yeah. I mean, because like the first season kind of had like the same issue where like the first half is a lot slower, a lot less exciting, and then the second half is where it really picks up and becomes really interesting. And that's like the exact same thing happening in season two.
I never
Um,
thought that season 1 was slow. Like, watching it, I understand why
I
people
think
feel that way, but the vibe
mhm.
of it just hit me so hard that I was never bored
I
watching
think
it, even when
I think
nothing.
that was kind of my perspective as well. But like at the same, like I will say is like I don't have any interest in rewatching the first half of Andor season one, at least not for a while. Like if I want to rewatch Andor
Twice
season one,
already.
like my preparation for season two, I rewatched the prison arc because it's the best arc and
Sure.
it's great. Um, well, the rest, like I mean, like it's still good, and obviously like it is a new tone to Star Wars, but it's very grounded in I guess humanity is probably the like what I would say, which is
Yeah,
the I think the real appeal of the show. Maybe,
I think you're right, and I do
yeah,
think this could surpass the first one, but just like the tone and the aesthetic of the entire first season hit me so much harder than I was expecting when I first heard about it that I think it will be hard for this to surpass that for me.
hmm I think that's fair. For I guess like I probably would have to watch the seasons back to back in order to determine for sure which one I like more.
Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
like at the moment I feel like season two could be that, but that's also like recency bias.
Mhm.
So can I really claim that? I don't know. But yeah, I definitely think some of the best Star Wars Disney has made. Unfortunately, Disney has made some good Star Wars. But and of course, this is the show again that everyone gets mad at the fact that this is the show that gets all the care and money put into it. When there's shows that people were more excited for, much more excited for, like Kenobi or Ahsoka, that fell flat for a lot of people.
Yeah, but I also don't think throwing money at a show makes it good.
Right.
Like you could have maybe Kenobi would have looked better if you'd thrown another
Mhm.
$100 million
Yeah,
at it.
the money thing maybe isn't the biggest issue. It's just the fact that it feels like there's a lot more care put into this, and I think that that just has to do with who they hired to write the story. Tony
Yeah, I
Gilroy
would
seems to know
expect
what he's
so.
doing. As far as write and the writing team, that like the dialogue in this is just like surpasses other Disney stars. I think that to me at least is something that stands out. And obviously, like the set design, the world building is really well done as well, and you can clearly see where the budget went. Um,
Yeah, it looks good, but beyond that, the writing is just great too. And no matter how many hundreds of millions of dollars you throw at a show, it's going to be the writing of it and the acting that matters at the end of the day. And Kenobi just had neither of those things.
Oh, they could have made something interesting, but they didn't. Gosh, I have so many issues with that show.
I do too. It was a bad show, but like I wouldn't sacrifice Andor to make Kenobi better.
No, probably not. What could you do to make Kenobi better? I don't know. I think
you could cut the villain. You could get rid of Leia and rewrite the entire show, and then it might be good.
Oh, there we go. That's an idea right there. I don't know. Yeah, it just felt like really weird thing to just like throw
make
away
the Grand Inquisitor actually like scary instead of fake killing him in the third episode.
This like the like alien makeup has been so bad in modern Star Wars times. Like you have Grand Inquisitor who's too wide. You have like Cad Bane and Mandalorian who just like was like too short on his head, and it was like. And like the sad thing is like you look at Grand Inquisitor, who is what's the name of the villain species or the alien species?
I don't know.
He is I don't know, whatever. But like we've had that alien species in Revenge of the Sith on Utapau. I think that's the planet where General Grievous was on, and like they look much better. Like it's possible to make the Grand Inquisitor look like that, and that'd probably look a lot better. But instead, we got what we got, which is just like face paint.
Yeah.
And that's just baffling to me. Like how much better the aliens are, just like in George Lucas Star Wars.
Yeah, and that's
just complaints that have nothing really to do.
That there's no aliens in it, which like. I understand why that's a criticism from some people, but like you said, this show is about the human element, and ultimately your audience is going to care more when they see humans than when they see a human and like a half mask, half like computer generated thing.
Plus, like the thing is that like even in like the original trilogy, like aliens aren't super prevalent. Like who do you like?
You have Chewbacca, but that's about
Chewbacca is pretty prevalent, and you have like Akbar. Beyond that, like, and they aren't like super but like the core of the original trilogy is Luke, Leia, Han. They're all human characters, and I think that definitely helps make it more appealing story.
I agree.
And then the prequels, it's the same thing. There's no aliens that take front and center stage, but obviously, like if you want to argue world building, that makes sense. But obviously. The worlds in Andor are human worlds, with the exception of Coruscant, and obviously that's where all the aliens in the show are in Coruscant. So that's we're just debating anything and anything now. Like,
yeah. How far over an hour can we push this episode?
Yeah, that's right. This will be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've said everything I need to say about the show. It's great. I'm excited for the next trio of episodes to round it out, and then we get to wait for whatever next Star Wars product there is. If it's one of the movies that'll actually come out instead of being canceled or delayed. Like, what even is the next Star Wars thing? I'm gonna look at it.
They announced Ryan Gosling in some movie recently in Star Wars.
Yes, Ryan Gosling is a lead in a Star Wars movie supposedly called Starfighter. That's
so weird. Ryan Gosling in Star Wars. Like, I just don't see
it. It feels like they're just like, Ryan Gosling is popular. Let's throw him into Star Wars. That'll get the fans to like us.
Exactly.
That's what it'll do. I don't know. I feel like it could work. But it does feel interesting. But like Ryan Gosling, like I don't really consider him the most exceptional actor by any means.
No, he kind of plays one character.
Kind of, yeah. But I don't know. It'll be interesting, and obviously, like, there's been like 200 Star Wars movies announced and canceled, so like, who knows what the future of this will be.
Right. I mean, actually having a lead actor for it suggests it's not.
Oh, that's right. Apparently, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Oh yeah, that. Okay.
Seems to be the next one scheduled, which is apparently next May in a year. And then they are making a animated, I think it's animated, Darth Maul series. Looks like is planned. Which I'm not really excited for. I mean, the Maul stuff could be interesting.
Yeah.
I think like they got over like the sin of bringing Maul back to life by making him a compelling character with compelling story arcs, and that worked. And I think he is a very interesting character that there's still stuff to do with, but I don't know if it's necessarily needed. It almost feels like they just keep bringing him back to pop up out of nowhere, like Clone Wars season 7. Like they just kind of like, yeah, sure, let's just bring Maul back. Let's just do that one more time.
Yep.
But I don't know. He's definitely become a fan favorite, so I guess I can understand that.
Yeah, I get it. It does make sense, but at the same time, like, come on, we don't do this.
I just like don't know like what their focus is gonna be, because like what do they do at this point? They already
they just need to stop making content. Honestly, like if you think about it, for 30 years of when Star Wars was actually like a big deal before anyone ruined it, for most of that time you were not getting consistent Star Wars, and people didn't care because it was just great. And now we're getting like slop every 3 months, and people don't care about Star Wars anymore because it's been like kind of ruined.
Right. I mean, like this is supposedly every confirmed Star Wars project.
But
and like I'm just like looking through this. We have Andor. Okay, I like Andor. Tales of the Underworld is just a Tales, which I kind of like the idea behind the Tales series.
Oh, Ahsoka season 2, good, so fun.
What are they gonna do with it? I don't know. Like they really want to set up like try to get close to like Thrawn, like a Thrawn arc, but like
what they'll just set up a Thrawn arc.
Thrawn arc is like what the sequel series probably should have been, honestly. But now they're
for real.
Let's just do something else instead. And the Mandalorian and Grogu movie,
I would bet you that Lando, Rogue Squadron, the Taika Waititi movie,
Lando and Rogue Squadron, those have been there like forever.
They're not happening.
I don't think they're a droid story. What is that?
I have no idea.
The Taika Waititi Star Wars. I forgot about that.
Hopefully not happening.
I don't know. Dawn of the Jedi could be interesting.
Sure.
Maybe that is an unexplored territory, which part of me worries that gives them almost too much creative liberty to do what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
But that obviously isn't unexplored time, which would be maybe interesting to see. Then we have New Jedi Order, which no one's going to watch. No one cares about Rey and what she's going to do to start the New Jedi Order, because it should have been Luke starting the New Jedi Order.
Yep.
What is this, Ninth Jedi? Oh, that's a Visions. Then we just have like unnamed ones.
Most of which probably won't happen.
Probably not, no. Yeah, who knows like how many of these even like end up happening? Because like
I'm not optimistic about like any of that.
No, I'm not either. I mean, I wasn't even optimistic about Andor season 2, but thankfully it has been good. But yeah, like, but what am I supposed to get excited for here? I don't know. I'm excited. I actually I'm considering playing the Knights of the Old Republic games.
I mean, everyone says they're really good, right?
Yes, though they're obviously dated in some ways, but like the story seems to be very well loved. But I don't know. I kind of interested about that time. Like, there's even a part of me that wants to like read the Legends books, but like I don't read books very often, so I don't know how all that'll go.
You could do like audiobooks or something.
Maybe, but yeah, I don't know. It takes time to read books, even if it's captivating. Yeah. Anyways, we should probably end the episode.
Yeah, probably.
Anyways, yeah. So we'll be back hopefully next week, assuming that'll work. Discussing the finale.
It might not be Sunday because Sunday is the day I'm like moving home.
Okay.
Kind of,
So
but
maybe not. That's fine then. What to just we could find the time to do
like Thursday night or we can schedule it when we're not like recording, but
true. That's true. Let's do that. Let's do that. Anyways,
yeah,
so
thanks for watching, everyone.
Our review of the finale of Andor next time.